Kia ora, Nihao, and hello. Welcome to the Chiwi Journal podcast. I'm your host, Camelia Yang. My guest today is Xuan. Xuan's footprints covered from a small village in China to the capital city, Beijing. Then she moved to DC and New York, and now settled in London. She studied English literature, linguistics, and philosophy at university, and trained herself in programming and currently works as a software engineer. In today's episode, we talk about human-computer languages, reality versus intuition, women in tech, and job interview tips. I hope you enjoy the show. Welcome to the show, Xuan.
Really good to see you again.
First of all, I need to say thank you. You know, during lockdown, you proposed the idea we exchange poetry's reading, which encouraged me to set up the channel to record the podcast, A Paradise of Poems. And I just read the Spotify analysis. It reached like 65 countries and got almost 50,000 listening times.
Wow,
I do appreciate
that's amazing.
your idea.
Yeah, that's really amazing. Yeah, it was so fun to send poems to each other every day, and it was also like a way of expressing our emotions without getting into the very explicit feelings.
True, yeah. Because before, as you know, I was in a relationship with a very rational guy. So I kind of hiding all my emotions because I try to be a rational person and just not express my emotion that much. I think that your idea just saved my life. I can say that because I'm a very expressional person. So by reading poems and by building up that channel, I do feel like I reborn. Yeah, it's a little bit exaggeration, but I do feel I need to find the feelings inside me.
Yeah,
Yeah, much appreciate that.
yeah, I think the art form is of poetry is really amazing in terms of like expressing our feelings with words. It was really good. I'm curious, why did you think you suppressed your more emotional side of, or the more intuitive side of you when you were dating a rational guy?
Yeah, they sometimes accuse me too emotional unstable. When I love something, I like to, oh my God, I'm so excited, like this. But, rational people will say, we need to deal with our emotion underneath. You can't express too much. If you want to beat your enemy or in the business world, you need to be very calm on the surface.
That's so interesting.
Kind of a coping mechanism, I would say.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the natural passion and enthusiasm for things and events in life is just like the natural side of human beings. Suppressing that side is completely irrational.
Yeah, now I can agree with you. But before I was thinking, yeah, I need to train myself as a machine, no emotion, make all the decision based on like rational thinking. But recently I read a lot of books that mentioned we are in like transformation age. Before we always use the left hand brain to think rationally, but lead to a lot of disaster, hating, and a lot of depressions and mental illness. But we sometimes just ignore the right side brain, which is more creative and can absorb information like way larger than the left brain can deal with. Left brain normally probably can deal with 60 bits information, but right side brain can deal like trillions of information.
Hmm.
I'll recommend some books to you and some podcasts, and it can explain better than myself because I'm still digesting those information. I know it's inside me, but I need to find a way to express better. As I know, you learned the linguistic and philosophy when you were in university,
Yeah.
and now you become a coder, software engineer. You kind of learning the human language first.
Mhm.
Now you are learning machine language. Can you walk me through the journey of your career
Yes. Yeah.
decision and why you choose this path?
Yeah. So initially, I studied English literature in college. when I was in China. And the reason why I chose English literature, well, as you know, in China, you have to choose a major before you go to the university.
Hmm.
I was this girl growing up in a village, and I just didn't know any better. Growing up, I didn't really have that many books to read, and so I thought if I could just go to university and read full time, that would be really really amazing. So that's why I chose English literature. At the final year of my undergrad studies, I took a course in linguistics, and it just like really just blew my mind. It was just so interesting how the human brain works, and how we're able to communicate with each other in language, in terms of like everyone has a different idea of what a word might mean, but somehow we are able to communicate with each other. So I just got really, really interested in linguistics. So I did a master's in theoretical linguistics. And then during my master's studies of linguistics, I started to get into the more foundational side of the linguistic theory, which is more or less just philosophy of language.
Hmm.
And so I got very interested in philosophy of language. So I decided to go to the US for graduate studies in philosophy of language. And when I was in the US, the kind of linguistic studies at my university was more cognitive science based, and so I got very interested in cognitive side of language and computational side of language as well. Most of it is just like formal systems of like deriving syntax trees and so on, and trying to write like find out an equation or formalizing the sentences in a way that we could try to understand how the brain is able to process language in ways that humans actually do. So yeah, that's my journey, very long journey of studying many different topics. But in some ways, these are all very connected. It's all about language. It's all about understanding. It's all about using language to express ourselves, to sort of frame a problem, and then find solutions to solve the problem. So yeah, so after my studies in the US, my partner and got a job in London, and so we decided to move to London because it was a job that he was really really interested in, and it was kind of also like a level up for him, and it was towards the direction that he really wanted to work on. So we decided to move to London, and I thought when I moved to London, like it was kind of hard to find a job teaching. I decided that this was like my one and only chance of learning how to code, because I was always interested in coding. And when I was a teacher during my graduate studies, I actually used coding to solve some of my problems, to automate some of the mundane details of grading.
Ah, I
So
see.
that's how I got into coding, and but I never really had like 2 or 3 months of like focused time to learn how to code systematically. So I thought, by moving to London and I had so much time at hand, so I decided to join a coding bootcamp and really learn the basics of coding, and to learn how to actually make an application instead of just like Googling and then copying and pasting.
That's another thing I need to thank you because when you switch your career to tech and you mentioned the coding thing, that you did some research that I found a free code camp
Hmm.
where I learned how to code. Then just upgrade my website by myself because I can add so many functions. I don't need to ask web designer to do it for me. I can just do myself. It's so
Yeah,
cool. Although
yeah,
I
exactly.
didn't go in deep into this industry, but it's good to master some basic coding
Yeah,
skills.
absolutely. And knowing how to code is also very empowering. Like, as you said, when before you probably would ask someone to help you to change some of the layout of your website and so on. But now you could just do it on your own. And similarly, like now when I like before when I had an idea, I would always be like, only if someone could make this app. But now, for me, when I have an idea, I would think about how can I make it happen?
Yeah, is it gives you like foundation. You have the confidence to make it happen.
Yeah, exactly. It's very, very empowering. I also think that right now every industry is moving to digital. Or every industry is trying to digitalize, and I think it's good to have some basic coding literacy to just have an idea of what's possible and how long things might take, or how easy or how difficult certain things might be.
Yeah, totally agree. When you learn computer languages, what's the fundamental logic difference from computing language to human language?
It's not really that different actually. It's more or less like human language, but in a more precise way. I would say the programming languages, it's the language that you use to talk to the computers, and the computer is a very, very literal being. Like you need to tell them exactly what to do. For example, like if you want to make instant noodles, you need to give very, very precise instructions of like where to get that pack of ramen, and how to open it, how to put it in the frying pan, or just like a pot, and how much water you need to put in, how long you need to boil it for, and so on. So it's just like every single step you need to be very, very explicit. There shouldn't be any assumptions at all. You just need to make every step very, very clear. By making every step very, very clear, I mean the regular kind of programming, not in terms of machine learning. Of course, machine learning, you don't need to give very specific instructions, and that's precisely what machine learning could do,
Yeah.
right? Given certain input, they could just learn on their own. And then generate the output, or try to understand the input in ways that you might not have understood before.
Yeah, I watched some GPT-3 demos. It just amazed me, like shocked how capable they can with gather a lot of information and generate their own thinking, air quote own thinking.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, that's another thing I found a little bit confused because when we talk as a human, we want our ideas and we want to be understood by the other part. So if we can be very rational like a machine, then deliver our message in a very accurate way, maybe others can understand you better. That's another reason why I try to compress my emotion. I want to deliver my message in a very accurate way, which is zero emotion, but just information. I'm very keen to hear your opinion on that.
I'm not quite sure, actually. As you said earlier, that the poetry really helped you understand yourself, and helped you find out like your own emotions, and also liberate your emotions and feelings. These are not the kind of expressions that computers can do or can understand. So I don't know if we really need to communicate in such a precise way as computers do. I have to think more about this. But yeah,
Mhm.
human language has a certain ambiguity to it, and I think that's precisely like the beauty of it. I spent a lot of time trying to understand how human communication is possible, given that everyone has very, or perhaps has like very different images or meanings associated with the words they use. But somehow we have certain kind of proxy that help us understand each other. Misunderstanding and miscommunication is definitely inevitable given the nature of language. Yeah, I don't know if we really want to be so precise.
Yeah, I think it's like the deep loneliness among everybody. We just want to be understood by others. That's why I started communications in postgraduate diploma because I do want to how we can better communicate with each other so we can all know each other. Because maybe some people they have so many ideas and thoughts, but they can't express themselves that much, and people normally misunderstand them, which lead them to be an outsider or misfit. I'm very interested in this domain, and yeah, sometimes I want to try different way to communicate myself or help other communicate their ideas. Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah, and sometimes I joke with my friend. I want to link my brain with a neural link. So Elon Musk, I put my bet on Elon Musk. So hopefully I can live that long.
I don't know. Do we really need to be understood all the time?
I don't know. I sometimes I write a lot of articles, and sometimes my reader left the comment. It's just like, what? This is not what I mean. How did you get this understanding from my article? I find it's not annoyed, but very interesting. Like a saying said, 1,000 readers have 1,000 interpretation of a Hamlet. Yeah, that's why when I read something I find so resonated, I feel like, oh my god, that's a feeling I want all the time. So why do you think we don't need to be understand all the time?
I think, first of all, it's not possible to be understood all the time because everyone has very different knowledge background and very different upbringing and had very different experiences before. And so when they express certain things in language, they probably have like all different things associated with it, and you can never fully really understand the context or the emotional and the intellectual context of a sentence expressed by a person. Communication is kind of like a constant negotiation between two parties. It, it's through this process of negotiation we reach certain kind of common ground, if we are lucky, for sure. Um, I think that's also part of the fun of it, right? Like you get to know each other, you get to understand each other's motivations, experiences, and values and perspectives
Mm.
through the process of communicating and negotiating.
Mm, yeah, maybe I'm too impatient for the long time communications. Yeah, sometimes I find math and music can be a universal language. At the moment, I live with a couple of musicians. They're from different part of the world, from Argentina, Venezuela, Spain, English. Is all not our native language, but with music we can communicate each other because we all have this understanding for music. Different melody can bring different emotion or the message we want to deliver. That's very interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm so jealous. You have
Mhm.
like so much creative energy around you. I'm curious, do you think by using music, do you think you could really fully communicate with each other without expressing your feelings and emotions in words?
Yeah, I do feel the something inside me like connected with them. I was telling you I had a a non-stop party since Friday and only have 2 hours sleep.
Mm,
And we performed at some country house, especially dancing, like moving your body also is the way to express yourself. Yeah, we can feel it when the music, for example, when
mm,
the music is very slow, we dance like very slowly with the melody, and we kind of all dancing this way together. Then when the music become very fast, and then we kind of express our passions all through that. Yeah, just like universal movement. I mean, that's another thing. As I mentioned, I read something about the left brain and right brain, and you can't just put your brain with link to the vet. You know, the brain in the vet by a crazy scientist. You need your body. You need the connection. When you move, when you dancing or do some rituals, religion rituals, that's the connection between your body and the brain. And I feel like music can achieve this goal. Use every part of your body as a human to connect with each other. I don't know if that makes sense. But when we talk, maybe we just use our verbal or hearing function, which is like five senses. But with music, I think you can wake up the sixth sense or seventh sense. This sounds like not rational again. It sounds like woo woo sense, like too spiritual. But I do find with music, every time we had that music communication, we kind of know each other better. It's beyond your rational mind to process the communication.
mm. Perhaps it's because it activates different parts of the brain and
Hmm.
recognize the different patterns. And as you said about dancing, I think your body movement is just it's all controlled by the neural system anyway. So it is a way of expression as well.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes I find this is if I explain to people, people will say, "Are you crazy? This is not a scientific thing. Like you use your sixth sense or seventh sense to, like, to communicate." But I do find the limitation of a language, as especially using English as a non-native speaker. Find so hard. I can't find the right word to communicate. What's your thoughts when you communicate deeply with others? Do you find you prefer use Chinese or English or coding?
I guess it depends on the topics
Hmm.
and depend on the people that I talk to. Because for certain topics I learned in Chinese, in and for certain topics I learned in English. So like I probably don't have like the vocabulary for certain Chinese dishes, for example. I was just unable to use English to express certain kind of styles of Chinese food or the kind of taste that you could only communicate with the people from your community who had similar experience
Sure.
of eating the same food and so on. But in terms of coding, like I find it hard for me to understand coding related articles in Chinese because I learned it in the English setting, and sometimes I don't fully understand the terms that were translated into Chinese. And so I think it depends on the kind of context where I acquire the vocabularies for certain topics.
And I found a lot of European languages, they have their own word which cannot be translated into English. Like my Portuguese friend told me, saudade is a kind of feeling, nostalgia, longing for something, maybe in the future. But
Hmm.
people can say, oh, it's a kind of a nostalgia feeling, but nostalgia is only mean the missing something in the past. But saudade can combine the future. So it's kind of like all the Portuguese with their language, they have this thinking we kind of live in the past, present, and future together. They can see the future. I don't know if that makes sense. Like time doesn't existed. because it's kind of like already happened. You are working this way.
Do you mean like certain languages have different ways of expressing time? So, for example,
Hmm.
like in English, you have past tense and present tense and future and present perfect or something. Yeah. So, but in Chinese, you don't really have past tense.
This let me wonder what is a reality. Like people all have a different reality if they speak different language. So, but with music or mathematics, we kind of live in a same reality. We all see the world like that way. That's very interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. How do you define reality?
Yeah, yeah, that's another topic. Yeah, especially after the psychedelic experience, you kind of question the reality. What is that? Yeah, so many to explore. That's why I want to live forever. I want to explore everything. I'm so curious about everything.
Do you think your psychedelic experience changed how you think about your day-to-day experiences right now?
After my psychedelic experience, I kind of abandoned my reality, real reality. But now I kind of grounded. So I think, yeah, that's a true reality. I'm living now, so I can't just longing for that psychedelic experience. But it's kind of resonates with me because as I mentioned before, I dream a lot, and sometimes my dream happened in reality, which scared me before.
Hmm.
Because it's kind of like, oh wow, are you a witch? You can tell the future or something like that. But with psychedelics, I do feel like yeah, time, yeah, it's not what we see it. It's not linear. It's not straightforward. Maybe it's happening in different dimensions. I just feel like a release, like my fear of my ability to say something unusual is disappeared. Kind of gave me a courage to live fearless in my reality now.
Interesting. So you think like normally you have like this inhibition of what you should say and what you should not say, but the psychedelics kind of release that inhibition and you feel the freedom of expressing yourself in any way that you wanted to.
Yeah, I just think yeah, psychedelic helped me to get rid of my fear. Because when I tell people, oh, I dreamed of that, 'cause sometimes I record my dream in my diary. I've been writing diary for 20 years. And sometimes when the things I wrote before happened in reality, there's no certain time frame. Maybe a couple of days later or a couple of years later, it happened. So I say, oh my God, this already happened in my dream.
Interesting.
So yeah, I kind of very very afraid of that. I was like, what the hell is
What
going on? Yeah, but with a psychedelic, I kind of okay, we do live in a multiple dimension maybe. I can't find scientific way. I don't think anybody can at the moment with our current science
hmm,
development. But it helped me to get rid of these fears, so which is
what
very helpful.
what's an example of something that you have dreamt before and then later happened in real life?
I think you can see it as a deja vu, this kind of feeling, but it's
Hmm.
strong. Or you can say it's like, for example, if I move to the UK, I know I'm going to move here, but I don't know when. Like I dreamed it before, which made me make that decision. Okay, I see myself in the UK. Okay, I want to go there. Then I use my rational mind to add some motivation. Okay, I love football. England got football. Yeah, it's I don't know. I don't know how to explain that better. I just say it before. It's like your intuition. You are going there. Like even for Portugal, I kind of dreamed of it. I see myself there.
Hmm.
Then later on, I'll gather all the information to explain to people to say why I make this decision Otherwise, I can't tell people, oh, I see myself there. Then I go. People will say, are you crazy?
So it's like you had a goal, but it was not like
Mm.
very clearly planned. But later on, you found yourself in the situation where you wanted to be.
And I didn't make any effort to achieve this goal. When we make goals, we will have a plan. Then, okay, I'll follow this, follow that. Then I'll achieve my goal. But for those dreams or visions, I just feel, okay, it's there, but it's a dream. I don't care. If it's happened or not happened, I don't know. But it's just happened. So I feel like, oh, interesting. Yeah.
So you probably had a very positive experience in your dream, and then that gave you like a very positive impression of, for example, life in London. And so you know when time comes to when you need to make a decision of whether you want to come to London or not, then you'll be more inclined to do so.
Mm. And sometimes I feel it's very hard to keep the story consistent. Like I can tell people why I moved to London with 100 reasons, but deep inside, it's just my intuition. Like Portugal, I can come up with so many reasons, like rational reasons. It makes sense why you make this decision.
Yeah, I think no one really has a consistent story of one's life. Whenever we think about our decisions in the past, or when we're trying to retell a story of our experiences in the past, we're always trying to rationalize our behaviors and our decisions. And in different contexts, we might have different stories to tell, or different ways of rationalizing our decisions and experiences.
But with that, I feel like, are you true to yourself? Because you come up with so many different reasons, and each story is different. Then maybe other will think, oh, why you tell different story? There's no one true story. But for me, I kind of living this life. I say, I don't care about others. That's the way I explain to you because I think you probably it will make sense if I give you this reason. So before I was a very like living in other people's eyes, like okay, I need to please others, or I need to tell my story in the acceptable way that society needs us to do. But now I can feel like, yeah, I can say whatever I want. Okay, I can use different languages. But sometimes I do feel a little bit,
Yeah,
is inconsistency. But that's a partial truth. Yeah, it's not like 100% truth, which my intuition leads me. But it's also the partial truth. Yeah, sometimes I feel like in a dilemma. Am I honest to myself or to others? I don't know.
a few very interesting things. Um, so before you were telling your story in a way you were kind of fitting your narrative in the framework of other people's perspectives, and you were telling your story according to how other people expected you to tell your story. But
Mm.
now you are telling the story from your own perspective, like you are controlling your own narrative. What made you change?
Yeah, as I mentioned, I get rid of my fear. I can live my life now. I don't need to care about others, how they think of me, how they think of my story. I can write my own story.
How did you get rid of that fear? Because we as social creatures, we always have this tendency of trying to like make other people happy, trying to please other people. So how did you make that transition? What made you change?
I think lockdown helps a lot, which I have so much time being alone. Yeah, so I think, I can be alone because I'm a very outgoing and yeah, extrovert person. Before I think, I need to be with certain group or certain friends. But during lockdown, I feel like, I can live peacefully with myself. And also the psychedelic and meditation. I think after 4 years of
Hmm.
meditation and also the
Yeah.
psychedelics helps me to think, yeah, I don't need to live other people's. They expect me to live. I can live my own and just be true to myself and express my story, the story I want the world to know me. I think this is a journey.
So lockdown made you feel that solitude is not something to be afraid of.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Because before I always, okay, I what do I do? I need to go to the party, be with people, but I feel the like deep loneliness even with the crowd.
Hmm.
But yeah, with myself, I think meditation can set you free. Like, okay, you can just be with your thoughts and writing, especially writing. I do feel like, oh, I don't need others to be around me. I need my space. I need my space to write more and express myself more. Yeah, I think lockdown definitely do good on me.
Yeah, you're definitely one of those examples of people who came out of lockdown stronger
Hmm.
and happier.
Yeah, yeah, I feel like, oh, interesting. Although I know it's yeah, you can't say, oh, thanks COVID, I love you. This kind of thing is ethnically incorrected. So, but yeah, I do feel like lockdown is like alarm or reminder
Hmm.
to me.
Yeah, that's really really cool. Another thing that you said that really interested me, you said that you sometimes when you had like different narratives for the same experiences, you kind of feel that you had this like inconsistency, and you were afraid that well, not afraid, but you were wondering if you were really true to yourself. So by saying that you're true to yourself, that's assuming that there's a self that's like static. I wonder if there is one such self that you kind of like hold as a standard of like, this is my true self, and this is how I want to adhere to the principles of how I want to be myself.
Mm. Yeah, self is such a big idea. I think myself is always changing. It's like flowing. So at a certain point, myself can be, yeah, if you look at it like a Schrödinger's cat, if you observe it, it will become achieve a certain status. But for myself, I think it's always flowing. You can't define it. But at a certain point, when people ask me a question, that certain moment, myself will be stable. So sometimes I feel like do all like every moment of my life to be, because it's always changing. Do they need to be in a very consistent way, or it can be like one day I'm an artist, one day the other day I'm a writer. So I have so many identities. I don't know how those all identities can come up with a whole story.
Hmm.
All the TV shows, like they have season one, season two, season till season 10. Because sometimes people say, oh, the first three seasons is wonderful, but the season 10 is sucked. So I think my life would be like that. So I live different seasons of life, and maybe people love only one season and they think, oh, that's a true chameleon. But later on, I become a season 10 chameleon. They think, what the hell? Who is this girl? I don't know her anymore. I don't like this story anymore. I feel like my life will be like that, but I don't afraid of that anymore. Before I thought, oh, I need to keep the consistency to stay to my character always like that. People always think, oh, you're cute, you're smart, this kind of thing. But now I can be anyone I want, and I don't care about the other my audience anymore.
No, that's interesting. So for most TV shows, there are many different writers for each season, or even for like each episode. So it is conceivable that like there won't be a consistent storyline. And for yourself, do you think there's a consistent storyline for you? And do you think there's a stable self? And if there is a stable self, how do you characterize it?
I think can go back to my childhood, like the thing I was born with. Yeah, it's very interesting. When I was like 4 or 5 years old, I started to read Buddhism books. I have no idea why I read them. I don't even remember what the information I gathered from there. It's just so random. I pick up those books, and later on, I pick up Nietzsche's books. I found, yeah, it's a philosophy and spirituality. It's always kind of embedded in my blood. I feel like it's always my spirituality lead me the way of how I live my life. I think that's probably the most consistency thing happened to me. And writing is another thing. I published my novel when I was in primary school, so it's always writing. I think that's the only consistent thing in my life. Other all my careers or my relationships, they can't define me as a person. Sometimes I can be a corporate manager, and the other time I can be a street artist. So this not consistent. Yeah.
Hmm, interesting. So you think writing is a very consistent identity of you?
If I look back, yeah, I always write.
Ah, so when you look back, you can probably find a consistent storyline for yourself.
Mm, the pattern. What about you? Have you found the dot you collect on the way? Did you find any theme all throughout your life?
I guess yes and no. Yes, in terms of I'm always curious about how everything works, and so I my main motivation for studying or for jobs, it's always about learning new things to deepen my understanding of how things work, how people work, how just like in general to have an understanding of the world. That's that's my main motivation. That hasn't changed, I guess. But I think because I am always driven by learning new things, so I've always been learning different things, and yeah, hence the trajectory of studying many different topics and switching career and moving around from continent to continent.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how interesting I found you online. I don't know how I did it. I found you online, we start chat, then we meet in real life. Oh, because you mentioned I was the first person you meet in real life. How did you make that decision?
Yeah. Oh, I just feel like because I think we follow each other on Weibo, which is a Chinese Twitter. I realized that we read many similar books, and we had many similar values, and we had quite similar experiences as well. And so I feel like I already know you,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
yeah, from your writings, and yeah, I just feel like an old friend.
That's very interesting because this is a thing you can't explain in science. The serendipity. Yeah. Because there are like 800 million people on Weibo. I don't even know how I followed you then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And then yeah. And then I found, oh, wow, you are in London. And we moved to the London in the same year.
yeah, around the same
Yeah.
time.
We
Yeah,
live only 10 minutes away from each other back then. Like, oh, wow.
yeah. Imagine what the odds are like that.
Yes.
I moved from New York to London, and you moved from New Zealand to London, and for some for some reason we ended up in the same neighborhood.
How rare is that? So I found, yeah, this kind of okay. I supposed to meet you in London. Yeah, doomed to meet you.
Yes, meant to be.
Yeah. So that's always fascinated with me. Like fate or life can lead me to a certain way I never expected. And like for example, when at the moment I live in the same house with an Argentinian musician, he read I Ching and Dao De Jing.
Mm,
He has a very deep understanding of all of them, even much better than me. I said,
mm,
wow, how come a foreigner understand my own country's ancient textbook much better than me? We moved to the house at the same date, and the owner said, "Oh, because he planned to move there a couple of months earlier. I also changed the moving date several times, 3 times. Then finally, we all moved on the same day, and we just found the connection. It's not like a love relationship; it's just like a soul connection. I don't have any like sexual things about him, but every time we use music to communicate because his English is not that good. And
mm,
I just, oh my God, he understand. Yeah, my
mm.
feeling. This just so rare. Yeah.
Yeah, the universe works wonders.
Mm-hmm. True. As I mentioned before, I do want to talk with you about the job hunting things because I got a lot of readers asking me these questions. And to be honest, all my when I work in a corporate world, all the job I got is just happened. I didn't have a much interviews experience, and I know you're like a master of the interviews, and I learn a lot
um,
from you.
yeah, yeah, I wouldn't say I'm a master of interview, but I guess I do prepare for interviews, and yeah,
So how to prepare for a job interview? For example, when you get your first job in tech, because before you don't have any experience in technology in coding, but how come you get that job and later a lot of the your interviewers who didn't give you that job, but they still remember you, and later on when they have opportunities, they also contact you. Yeah.
a little bit of background for my for the context of my first job search in tech. I finished my coding bootcamp right before the lockdown in London, and so yeah, lucky timing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so at the time, I think a lot of companies were unsure about what's going to happen, and so they were really not hiring at all because of uncertainty, and so it was quite tough to get a job, especially as someone who's just like going into tech without any prior experience in the industry. I think the main thing that really helps is that I applied to a ton of jobs. Um, yeah, so especially because like if I already prepared a CV, right, and a template of my cover letter, why don't I just apply to a lot? Like,
Mhm.
if you have a wider net, maybe you can catch some fish. Um, so yeah, so I applied to a ton of jobs. I would say I probably applied to like 80 or 90 jobs, and then I got three interviews. One of them, mm, after the first interview, we were going to proceed to the second one, but then the company decided that they wanted to stop hiring for a while because they were not sure. And remember, that was back in April when lockdown just happened, and so yeah, so that didn't happen. And another one, I had really good interviews with them, and but then in the end, after the final interview, because a lot of people were on furlough, as you know, that's like the UK government's way of helping people who, I guess, the companies were not like making people redundant or laying off, but for a while people just don't really have anything to do. And so a lot of people were on furlough, and a lot of
Okay.
people were made redundant during that time. So in the end, they hired someone with a lot more experience than me. And but because I had really, really good chats with them, and that actually led to another interview a year later as well. Yeah, because it was just like such mm, a good. We had really, really good conversations, and I stayed in touch with them. So yeah, and then another one. It was the job that I eventually got, and it was yeah, it was pretty straightforward of some coding tests and interviews. And for the interview, I really like for each interview I really prepared a lot for the job that I eventually got. I know the final interview was with a scrum master and the CTO. So what I did was, because I only knew that I was gonna interview with the scrum master the day before. So what I did was, I read the entire sort of like the manifesto of Scrum um, in the night before, and so the
Wow.
during the interview, I knew that the Scrum Master really, really cared about agile methodologies, and we just had really, really good
Mm.
conversations in terms of like how we could apply agile methodologies in our daily life as well. And yeah, so it was just it's really good. I think we just instantly connected with each other because she's very passionate about what she's doing. Someone would actually really understand what she's doing really made an impression on her. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So how do you like prepare the whole process? Will you do some background research on the interviewer, or what's your process behind this
Yeah,
preparation?
for the interviews, I really did like research the shit out of it.
Stalking them.
um, Yes. So I usually would look at these people's LinkedIn
Mm,
and see if and also Google is your best friend when you're looking for a job.
yeah.
If there are people who if there are like blog articles that people wrote, then I would definitely read through them.
Mm,
And there's another interview where I was interviewing with someone who did a master's on how formal methods can help with the software development process. So I read his entire dissertation,
wow.
and so and during the interview, I kind of just like casually mentioned it, and he was very surprised
Yeah. Hmm.
and very impressed as well. And there's another interview. Well, that's for my second job, but I read the blog post of one of the engineering managers about his views on how to develop junior engineers, and
Mm,
so I mentioned a few of the points that he made, and then also related to my own experience, and yeah, it was just
mm,
like a very I think it was like a very organic and and interesting conversations because you are
mhm.
actually talking about things that both of you are genuinely interested in. So,
True.
so yeah. So some people might think like doing a lot of research about interviewers is a little bit creepy because you're kind of like stalking them on the internet. But for me, I think because the interviewers are the people that you will be working potentially if you get the job, you will be working with them. So of course you are interested in their thoughts and their approaches to tech and what kind of people they are. So I think um, my attitude towards interview is that the interviews are just an opportunity for you to get to know your potential colleagues. It's a learning opportunity, and so as long as you are genuinely interested in them as a person, and you are genuinely interested in the kind of work they do, then the conversation can happen very organically, and it wouldn't sound too creepy or too artificial, I think.
Yeah, because a lot of interviewers, the last question they will ask you, "Oh, do you have any questions for us? What's your methodology prepare these kind of questions?"
Oh, I think for most of my interviews, I at least ask half of the questions,
Yes.
if not more. Yeah, I just really did a lot of research about what they're interested in, and usually I would ask a few questions about the team and how they work, and the kind of problems that they're working on, and because it's very important to understand that whether I will be a good fit for the team, not just in terms of personality, but also in terms of the kind of skills that they were looking for, and what I could do to help in terms of the problems that they're solving. So yeah, so just to have a very good understanding of what they do, and what they're looking for, and what kind of problems that they're solving, whether that's the kind of problems that I will be interested in solving, and whether that's the kind of problems that I could help solve. So yeah, that's that's just usually when I ask one question, and then they will give me some answers, and then it just naturally leads to another question, because like I really wanted to understand how they work, and whether we could work well together.
Cool. So have you found the woman in tech movement is growing pretty fast? Have you found a lot of women start in technology world like yourself do a career switch?
Yeah, I guess women in tech became a hashtag on Twitter. Um, it's only because there are not many women in tech. But yeah, I think my experience has mostly been very, very positive so far. So I've had really amazing mentors, and I've been given a lot of interesting work to do. And so for a while, I didn't really, or I thought I didn't really realize that there's any unconscious bias towards women. But then I thought about it after our chat last time, and I had a chat with my partner, who's also in tech, and I was thinking back my own experience, and I realized there are unconscious biases, and I like me, I myself, I didn't even realize it. So can give you some examples. So for example, like I started my tech career last year, so I've only been in tech for like less than 2 years. And you know me, that I'm the kind of person who would always ask a lot of questions. And so y- I, I realized now that when I asked a question, the senior engineers on my team would always assume that there are a lot of basics that I didn't know. And even though like I already know these pretty well, and I've shown that I know these pretty well in my work, but it's still they will still start explaining the very basic stuff to me. And for me, initially I thought like that was just them being nice, trying to start from the most basic. But then my partner told me that he never encountered anything like that. Like even when he was a complete newbie, even when he knew way less than what I do now, like no one ever assumed that he didn't know any of the very basic stuff. So it was a revelation to me that there is some kind of gender bias in tech. Yeah, and another example is that it was one time that I was helping a coworker from a different department, and I helped him automate some of the workflows that he had to do. And at the end, he told me, he was like, "Wow, you are actually really, really good." And so yeah, so the two types of experiences, I did experience them sometimes, not like all the time, but sometimes. And at the time of like when it happened, I didn't really
Mm,
think of it as like any gender bias or not until my partner told me that like as a white male he was never treated the same. So I
mm,
realized that there are some gender associated assumptions, either it's good or bad. um,
mhm,
and I guess the assumptions are also like depending on people's upbringing and their social context. So so yeah, but my response in in that kind of situation is that first of all, do
mm.
not take any offense,
It's not
and
personal.
yeah, it's not personal really. I think these people are all really really nice people.
Mm,
They sometimes the biases are so implicit that they didn't even realize, or like me, didn't even realize at all until like when I talked to someone in a different situation. My reaction is that definitely do not take any offense,
mhm,
and in in the example of like where people started to explain very basic stuff to me, I what I do is I would just try to show in the conversation that I actually know, like I actually know way more than they assume that I do, and do really really good work. So eventually, I became person who people will go to for some areas of the code base and certain kind of technology as well. Like it was when the senior engineers started asking me or started coming to me for a certain kind of technology, then that's like the moment when they really started to trust my ability and started to respect me as well. I know that it's probably not fair that and it is somewhat true that in a lot of first encounters, women have to work extra hard to earn the respect and trust, even while like sometimes men just get that for free. But in work encounters is things are always more than just the first encounters,
exactly.
and what
Mm,
the long term impression that people have of you is not just like the first impression. Yeah, and one thing about coding or problem solving in general is that your ability in solving problems really speak for itself.
mm,
So I would say if we don't internalize any of the external biases, always be curious and always be learning and do good work and be the best version that you could be, that can really really take you far. And by demonstrating
mhm.
that you you have the same ability as any other groups of people, can also slowly change the kind of implicit assumptions that people have about women. I think for me, a lot of times actions speak louder than words. I do realize that there are explicit or implicit biases towards women in tech, and because we don't have enough women in tech, so there's still a long way to go. And what I can do. to help change that is, first of all, do really really good work, and to progress as, and become a better engineer that I can be.
I do think we need female examples, role models. So other young girls, they will say, "Oh, I got the yeah. There's someone I can live for, I can aim for."
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, definitely. You can only know what's possible when you see it.
yeah, exactly. Like all these scientists in NASA, those women, yeah, they set the example. So the future generation, they will know, oh, okay, yeah, scientist is not just a male's job, but a woman as well.
Yeah.
Even in sports, yeah, I used to work in sports. I do feel, oh, it's even worse compared with tech. Women in sports, especially in football, such a gender
hmm
inequality there. I've been watching football for 20 years, and every time people say, "Oh my God, you are a football fan, unbelievable!" I said, what the hell? Yeah, it's very funny to say
Yeah,
this.
definitely. I think when I was a kid, I never thought about that I would become a engineer, because it's just like I haven't seen any of women engineers around me, and my my first childhood dream was to become a teacher,
Uh huh.
because everyone in my family was a teacher, and we live in a school campus, so everyone else that were like successful and have a really good life,
Yeah.
they're teachers. So like that was my reality. That was what I could see. That's what I could aim for, because that's the kind of things that I could imagine for myself without having exposure to other possibilities. So I do think that having more women in tech, and having more exposure for women in tech is definitely a good thing. For me, there are two things that I could do. One thing is to become the best version of myself that I could be, and then like my work and my actions can speak for themselves. And another way that I could do to help is, I volunteered in a lot of, well, not a lot, but like in a few um, organizations where I help mentor women and other minority to learn how to code. And for people who are just like studying or thinking about going into tech, they might not be aware of like what what kind of career that is. What are the possibilities, and what are the ways of getting into tech without prior knowledge or academic background? And
Yeah.
I've done it, and like I found my own way. I'm sure like everyone has their own path into tech, but there are certain things that, or certain kind of experiences that I could share with people, and I can also help them just understand what kind of technology is in trend, and what's in demand in the market. And yeah, so I've been helping with organizing these kind of mentoring events, and yeah, so I think that's the mainly the two things that I could do to help. And I I am very optimistic,
Hmm.
because there are more and more women in tech, and um, especially especially in the Web 3.0 domain. I think if you look at it, there are a lot of venture capitals that invest in crypto technology are female. And yeah, there's definitely like way more
True.
women participation, like yourself,
Yeah.
um, in in tech, whether you code or not, but like you are participating in the movement, you have your voice and you have your audience. As long as like there are more exposures, and it will become normal thing. Like we don't need the hashtag women in tech anymore.
It's could become a normal. Yeah, nobody will
Yeah,
question that.
exactly. Like you don't see men in tech
Yeah.
hashtag, right?
Yeah, I also found a lot of people use pseudonyms online. So sometimes maybe a guy, but they use a cartoon character, female cartoon character as their avatar. So you never know who behind this. Yeah, so I think gender won't matter that much. Maybe in the future, it's like your hair color, or you have brown hair, dark hair, or blonde. It's just your style. Even gender can be your style. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you only stand out because there are very few of you in a group.
Hmm.
Once it becomes a normal thing, then you won't stand out anymore. What we try to do is to really just normalize. Yeah, when I told people that I am a software engineer, and they were like, "Wow, that's a really hard thing," but like
Yeah.
no one really said that to men. If they said they're software engineer, they'll be like, "Oh, you're really smart," but they would never say like that's a really hard
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah, same as football, as I mentioned. I just want people won't say,
Mm.
"Oh my God, you're a girl and you're a football fan."
Being a software engineer, being in tech, it's the same as in any other industry. We are trying to solve problems. We are trying to make people's lives better. We are trying to improve efficiency.
So, last question: what got you most excited about the future?
I don't know, to be honest. I'm as excited about the future as I am towards what I like the present time. So I don't really have like this idea of like how the future is going to be so much better or so much more exciting, because the present time is already so good and so exciting.
That's great. Live in the moment. Cool. Thank you for coming to the show. Hopefully, to see you very soon in person again.
Yes, I love that. All
OK，我现在听一下。
right, take care.